What's up, everybody? It's Carpo. So let's play it real for a minute here. We're all just humans. We're all just playing this game. Game of life. The game of acceptance. The game of love. The game of angst. The game of resolution. The game of excitement. The game of depression. The game of happiness. The game of sadness. And amongst this, we find these little points that we disagree with one another, or little points that we can take from what another person says. Often a person can say an entire spiel for 5-10 minutes about a personal opinion on something, and we might pick out one aspect that we don't agree with, rather than finding the vast amount of information that we do agree with. It's especially noticeable when we point the fingers at people for things that we've either done ourselves or that we do on a regular basis. We're all a bunch of hypocrites, and I don't think anybody's the exception to the rule. I've talked to a lot of people who claim to be living in this certain level of total acceptance, but I also I'm aware that much of this is a self-contained acceptance that isn't necessarily something that could be carried from person to person. The way a person handles a particular situation isn't always the same, and the way that we tell other people how they should be when we ourselves are short-sighted, it leaves a lot to be desired. I wanted to read this. I flipped open to my random page like I always do, and it was a pretty interesting concept that I came across here, if I can find it, but it's called Living in Truth, and it's a book called Inner and Outer Peace Through Meditation by Rajinder Singh, forward by the Dalai Lama. It's a pretty interesting little book. I've had it for a really, really long time, and I just found it on a random shelf. I don't know where it came from. Living in Truth. And this little quote is something that just resonates with me so strongly. And I've heard this story many times, but I want to repeat it so people can hear it. A mother once came to Mahatma Gandhi and said, "My son eats too much sugar. Can you please tell him to stop?" Gandhi thought for a moment and requested her to return in several days. The woman returned with her son a few days later and asked Gandhi again to advise the child to stop consuming sweets. This time, Gandhi told the boy to stop eating sugar. The mother was perplexed and asked incredulously, "If that's all you're going to say to him, why couldn't you tell him that when I first came to you?" Gandhi replied, "Because 3 days ago, I was eating sugar myself, but since then, I have stopped." The reason why this has been quoted in so many different books and journals about Buddhism or Hinduism or whatever is because this very notion of telling others how they should live their life or what things they should do to make a change in their life is often brought about not by an understanding of how that life is helping us, but more a realization that we ourselves know in our hearts certain ways to live, but we choose not to follow those paths because they're very difficult. And I don't think that anybody's immune to that difficulty. It's very complicated to know which issues we should be concerned with, and some of the ones that we are concerned with that we don't do anything about are the ones that we tend to tell others they should do. A person who is always telling others that they need to work harder or get a better job or get a job in general often are the ones that are unemployed or can't hold a job. People that speak about quitting drugs are often the ones that have the largest problem with quitting drugs, such as the person who used to be an alcoholic, who now is totally opposed to all forms of inebriation. Not understanding that, say, a person taking medicinal mushrooms in a proper setting to learn about himself is not the same as someone who drinks every night. But I'll read the rest after this little quote just for a minute. He says, "This example illustrates the high ideal for speaking only what we actually practice ourselves. For those treading the spiritual path, truthfulness is one of the ethical virtues we need to inculcate. inculcate. Let us examine the various aspects of this trait and explore ways which we can make it an integral part of our lives. I'm gonna skip down to this part. It says the failure of falsehood deals with lying. People lie in thought, word, or deed. It basically means they are hiding the truth. There are many motives for lying. A child lies to his or her parents when he fears being punished for doing something wrong. An employee lies to the boss when it means preserving one's position or covering up the fact that a certain job has not been done properly. People lie to their family and friends when they do not want them to know that they have failed, and that's a big one. You know, say you're going to quit doing something and you don't, and then you say, oh yeah, I'm still on that path, or, you know, because you want people to like you, and that's just life, especially family. It says people lie to their family and friends when they do not want them to know that they have failed or have fallen into bad times or are sick, but do not want anyone to worry about them. In many cases, the cause for lying is to protect oneself from punishment due to our failings or preserve an image we wish to project to others. The most common circumstance in which a lie is told is that in which someone has unintentionally done something wrong. They might have made a mistake or done a job improperly due to lack of ability or carelessness. Then the person feels he or she must cover it up because of their fear of opinion of others. And I think we can all relate that. I underlined one quote here. It says, as Kirpal Singh often said, truth is high, but higher than truth is true living. And I watched a video this morning by Gabriel Kundalini. I always enjoy his insights, and he was talking about the Illuminati thing, and how people become so wrapped up and engulfed in this whole idea of these Illuminati, because we choose to fight battles that are unwinnable, because it's easier for us to say what we don't like about situations and claim it to be someone else's fault, rather than living a life of good intent and value. And I'm not going to deny that I make the same mistakes as everybody else does. And you know, it's funny when people get called out on stuff, they often get very defensive, and we all do it. I find I only get defensive when I find that the person is wrong or dreadfully mistaken about their interpretation of me or who I am. But I don't get angry about it. I just voice my opinion. And sometimes, in the past, I found myself getting angry like others do when this is the big one, when people point out something that's absolutely true. Somebody says, you should change this because it would help you, and you know it's true. But it's something so obvious that you've been working on that you get frustrated because they're pointing out something that's, you know. But rather than say, I know, often we say, no, I got it figured out. And we get defensive and angry because we know that they're right. So this is what I've tried to conquer in my life, is when I know I'm wrong, to admit it. I may not admit it to the world, but I always admit it to myself. But I'm always trying to stand here. You know, I've made a few videos in the past where I say stuff like, I don't know shit. Like, I really don't know. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what we're supposed to be doing. I'm doing my best to understand it. And sometimes people might catch a glimpse of a particular video of mine where I appear to be running some idea into the ground or frustrated about something. But really I'm just expressing a point of view. But if I do find myself getting frustrated, I have to be honest with myself 100%. And this is how I keep myself free of aggression and depression. Because I don't deny the feelings of aggression and depression. I analyze and ask where they come from. See, when somebody says something, I get angry about it. It's pretty rare that I get angry when someone says something. It usually is when they say something, then you respond with the proper answer to try to clarify, and they deny your validity or deny what you said, even though you're trying to be as honest and truthful as possible. So, in the end, we're all kind of pushing along, pushing through this crazy ocean of people, And when people say that they're seeking like-minded people, this is something I've been thinking about lately. I, in the past, have said that I'm seeking like-minded people. But what I mean by that is not people that think the way I do or think the things I do. That's a total misinterpretation of my meaning. I'm looking for like-minded people who are also open to the fact that we may all be wrong, and that we can never quite be sure of the finest details of life. To embrace the truth has become such a passé, cliche type word, because truth, as I've said before, it's subjective for each individual. As much as there may be an objective truth, we'll never get everyone to see eye to eye on that situation. And I think that whole idea of admitting, if we're going to point at someone and say to do something, it's just like the old Gandhi thing about not eating sugar. And there's a chapter in there about kids and how we always tell our children, don't eat sweets, don't do drugs, don't cuss, don't fight. But then the parents are fighting and cussing in front of the children, eating junk food, drinking beer, getting high, and that's the answer that we have to the kids when they say, why should I if you don't? I say, do as I say, not as I do. I'm an adult, I can make these decisions. Think about how a kid views that. The kid's saying, well, once I am an adult, I can finally make these decisions. They're not thinking of it as a decision. They think of it as, now I can finally drink, or now I can do this or that. Because the parents do it, the adults do it. And when you look at it, like, instead of parents and kids, you'll see groups of adults talking to each other the same way. Don't do this or that. And people say, but you have. And they say, but I've learned from my experience, and I don't do it anymore. What parent has ever been able to tell their child, hey, don't climb that, you might fall? You're going to walk out 20 minutes later and they have fallen. They learned their lesson through experience. All of us learn our lessons through experience. So that's why telling people how it is never going to get them to see your point of view. You have to lead by example. And the reason why I brought in that video about Gabe and the Illuminati thing was, it's like he was saying, you can fight an invisible enemy, but all that's doing is finding a release for your pent-up anger, your pent-up aggression towards someone or towards a group, but you're not finding anyone in particular you can really confront and deal with the issue. So what it is it's inner turmoil being expressed through the world around us, the injustices, pointing, look at that, look at that, look at the trails in the sky, and look at the oil and the water, and